time once again to slip into your camo, grab your bow, and join us out in the field for another episode of the Up North Journal, presented by PSE Archery. The Up North Journal crew is knocked and ready to rock for another exciting adventure. So let's step outside and hit the trail.
This episode of the Up North Journal podcast is brought to you by PSE Archery,
Buck Baits,
Better the Hunt,
Rebel 6 Rubs and Seasonings,
Easy Cut,
Limb Walker Game Calls,
Sunrise Archery,
Total Peep,
Hunter's Blend Coffee,
Packer Max,
Fourth Arrow Camera Arms,
Scent Blocker,
Scent Lock,
Copper John,
and Stanislawski Release Aids. Welcome back to another episode of the Up North Journal. Everybody, I'm your host, Mike Adams, sitting in the cabin tonight on a great Michigan weekend with Dan DeFall. Danny, my man, what is going on?
Oh, man, I tell you what, it's fall. Well, it feels like fall. It's not fall. It'll be fall on Tuesday. But I tell you what, it was a good weekend to be out. I was getting everything done outside, so I don't have to worry about it come October.
Right. Well, I was up north doing a little habitat work with some new equipment that I've never seen before, and we'll talk about that on a future show, because tonight we're going to be talking about some fishing. But before we get to that, Danny, let's do some sponsorship work here and let everybody know how they can save a little bit of money.
Oh, yeah. You know, there's nothing better than going over to our sponsors, helping them out, going over to Hunter's Blend Coffee.com. You can go over there and you can save 10% off on checkout when you use the promo code capital UNJ.
And you can see it right there on the screen.
That's right. And you use that code, get 10% off when you check out. But don't stop there. Go on over to Buck Baits. Go over there, use the promo code Up North Journal, and you can get 20% off your order when you check out there at buckbaits.com. But you know what? It's grilling season. It's anytime it's grilling season.
Anytime's grilling season.
Absolutely. And you can get over to Rebel 6 Rubs. And when you check out there, you can get 20% off there using the promo code North Journal when you go over to rebel6rubs.com.
All right, there you go, folks. And don't forget our other sponsors as well. It's archery season, PSC. Get over to your pro shops, get your bows tuned, get ready, get set up, and get ready to rock. But tonight, we're talking fishing. And Danny, you have talked with our guest and kind of got things set up tonight. And
yeah, you know what? We've been talking with Yamaha Pro anglers throughout since May, and lo and behold, we got another one on tonight. He is a walleye pro fisherman, all the way from Fargo, North Dakota. See, I didn't screw that up like I would of Virginia or something like that.
Right.
But Spencer Deutz, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you guys? Thanks for having me.
First off, did he get your last name right?
No.
What is it?
Deutz.
Deutz. I knew you.
Close. I had to go with the E or the I. I'm like...
You got Fargo, North Dakota.
I did.
I'll give you that. Welcome to the show tonight, Spencer. Good to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
You know what? It is exciting when we have you guys from Yamaha, and we've been talking with you guys, whether you're on the walleye side or the bass side, and having you on has been great fun, because it's great to hear how you guys, and now you're going to be real exceptional here, because you're out in Fargo, and that's kind of intriguing to me, as to, you're not like in the Midwest area or nothing like that, but how in the heck did you end up getting into pro fishing?
You know, I grew up fishing with my dad. Just ever since, he would take me all the time when we were young. He'd actually pull me out of school, and we'd go fishing for the evening, just for the day. And I grew up playing sports. Hockey was my big sport, so we're very competitive. I had a brother who was about 18 months old, so I had to be competitive to keep up with him, right?
Right, exactly.
And just fish all the time, and you're competitive. You wanna compete, and I followed online all the circuits, all the top guys. Ever since I was, junior high school, really, and I'm like, you know what, I want to do that someday. And I just kept working at it and putting myself in the right places at the right time, and things have just come together really nice.
That is awesome. Now, you said you were watching the circuits and everything. Was that the bass circuits, or were you always following the walleye circuit?
All walleye. Yeah.
Okay, so that leads me to my next question: is why walleye instead of bass?
That's just what's here. We do have bass over in Minnesota. We don't have a lot of largemouth or smallmouth in North Dakota at all. It's mainly white bass. And the big circuits, the big bass circuits, they just never really came up here. In the last few years, I know they had a few AOI championships on Mille Lacs, and they've been to La Crosse, I think, even this year. So by those guys even coming up here in the last few years, it's really helped grow the bass fishing side of things in Minnesota, North Dakota, especially with the collegiate schools getting teams and stuff. But yeah, back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that just it wasn't a thing up here. Walleye is what we had, so that's kind of why I did that.
That's awesome, and like you said, you're being competitive, you're chasing that dream, and you've made it to the professional circuit. And so, going with that, what's your preferred method? I know there's a bunch of methods for walleye, but your preferred method over something else is
slip bobber fishing. It's probably one of the easiest, most basic techniques you can do. All the kids around here and a lot of places just grow up slip bobber fishing because they can do it when they're 2, 3, 4 years old. You just get a slip bobber and a hook and a worm or whatever you're using for bait and throw it out, and bobber go down, you can catch them. But I prefer it, especially around here in North Dakota. We have a lot of deep rock piles that aren't very big, 1-2 boat spots. So if you're doing anything else, you're kind of missing the mark. So I just like to be patient and just sit on those spots and wait.
Well, one of our local walleye fishermen here has said the reason he probably fishes for walleye is because they just simply taste better.
Yeah.
Better than bass anyway, right?
Yeah, I think most people would agree to that.
Right on.
Right, exactly. Because last weekend we were invited to a big walleye fest dinner, and Tammy, who's on the live stream with us, provided, they cooked, it was over 100 pounds of walleye for us, for the group that was there. And you're right, you can't beat fresh walleye, not going to lie.
Absolutely. So getting out there on the circuit, moving around there in North Dakota, when we talked to you at the beginning of the show, you talked about fishing a couple of different circuits kind of from year to year, but you mainly stay right there in the Dakotas and Minnesota. You come over maybe to Lake Erie is probably as far as you come over this way. Is that right?
Yep, we've been out there 2 times, and everyone says, oh, it's going to be, you're going to need 7, 8, 9 pound average. And both times we've been out there, they've had huge blows from the north, and I think we're fishing out of Huron, and it was just chocolate milk. You could mark them. It was just, you just couldn't catch them because the water was so dirty. So I had been out to Erie twice, and I just haven't had great luck, great fishing out there.
Now, another question I have, okay, you've been down to Erie. Have you been up to the Upper Peninsula, Big Bay, Little Bay, Denok, off Escanaba there?
No, I've fished tournaments out of Green Bay, but I have not been that far north.
Okay, all right. Because that's another great fishing spot that we hear all about for walleye and stuff like that, coming back down to the Saginaw Bay as well. But but you doing, making that trek over from Fargo to Lake Erie is a nice little ride, not going to lie.
Oh, it's about 14 hours, not too bad. The tolls are really what gets a guy mad.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah. I can definitely see that when the tolls start adding up. It's just one of those things. But
North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, nothing, and then it's just bam.
So how did you do your last tournament? You had a tournament last couple weeks ago, and you got one coming up soon.
Yep. So we have our championship tournament coming up next weekend. We had the 4th one of the year last week or 2 weeks ago, and that was Missouri River. It's an awesome system. There's all sorts, any type of fish that lives in that system. And we were finished in the middle of the pack. It wasn't the best tournament for us.
And where's the championship going to be held at next week?
In Devil's Lake.
Devil's Lake. Okay, cool. You getting excited for that? You're going to head out, do some pre-fishing, and get it all lined up, ready to go?
Yep. Very shortly here, I'd consider it my home body of water, so I do know it pretty well. It should be a very good bite, a lot of big fish being caught. As the water cools down, the temperatures cool down, the bigger fish become more active, so it should be a lot of fun.
Oh, excellent. It's always good to hear, when you call it your home, body, you probably feel more comfortable anyways, knowing that, instead of having to figure out a new body and kind of start off with a blank slate and say, okay, where do I go now?
Right, but sometimes that's even better. So like on Devil's Lake or any lake that you fished hundreds of or 1,000 times or what have you, sometimes you get stuck fishing memories and it actually hurts you.
You're talking to yourself a lot out of the boat, aren't you?
I know, especially if it's not going well. You're like, oh, remember here, there, and you have 50, 60 spots for the last 10 years, you know. If you go to a new body water, you don't have that, right? So you can only fish what you know for the last 3-4 days. So yeah, it can hurt you. It can. You just got to be smart about what you're doing.
That's the old right shoulder says do it, left shoulder says don't do it.
Right. Well, looking at what you're talking about, the memories of different lakes and where you've had success or you've not had success. I'm not real familiar with those bodies of waters out there, but here, at least around here in the Great Lakes, the water levels here are historically high right now. Are you having similar issues out there where things like that are changing your fishing patterns?
It does. It changes. Well, let's just take Devil's Lake, for example. It's back it almost dried up. 25 years ago, it was almost nothing. And then it flooded. A lot of farmers lost their land, their homes. A lot of people lost their houses. They had to build the dike around the whole town. And it fluctuates. Like 2009, I believe it was, I don't know exactly, but it had to be, 5, 6, 7 feet higher than what it is now. And it just up and down 3-4 feet is kind of what it fluctuates every year. But it's, you're fishing sunken roads. It's funny because my dad, I actually was born there. We lived there for a year and then we moved, so I didn't live there very long. But a spot that we do fish, it's a popular spot. It's a sunken highway, sunken road. And my dad would drive from Devil's Lake to this town called Minnewacan every day on this road. And he would hunt geese and duck right off that road. And now it's a good fishing spot, and it's 15, 16 feet underwater on the top of that road.
That is incredible.
That's wild. I was just listening to you explain that, and you going, but then just to say your dad used to hunt over that road is like, wait a minute.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And now you're fishing it.
Okay, so now going with that thought, do you think because of the road bed and whatever's been put on top for the road has created the habitat best for walleye there?
Right, it's just perfect structure, right? So you got this nice gravel bottom, the ditches, like any gravel roadbed, you're going to have your approaches, you're going to have your culverts that are going to have rock in there, right? So the bait fish are going to be hanging around in there. It's a perfect place just for the bait. All year long they catch them. It's not early or late. They just chase all that bait. Interesting thing about Devil's Lake is there's a lot of trees, and it has freshwater shrimp in it, actually.
Wow.
So the walleyes just gorge themselves on the freshwater shrimp, and they're not very big. They're really small. But if you fillet a walleye open, it's going to have a ton of freshwater shrimp. And those shrimp like to hang around the trees. So there's so many flooded trees and timber where you can sit in those trees and you can bobber fish. Because if you fish any other way, you're going to get snagged in every 2 minutes. And you can catch them in the middle of the trees and 2, 3, 4 feet of water.
I was just about to say, by you saying that, I can just imagine all the lures that are hung up in those trees.
Oh, it's crazy. We were like, can you imagine if you were like scuba diving or something? How many you go, like if you're trolling a rock, an old shoreline. We like to troll old shorelines because the old lake, you have people have these nice cabins and homes, and they have all this riprap and rock that they brought in for landscaping. Well, that's 15 feet underwater now, so you control that with crankbaits, and you can. I mean, you're going through 20 to 40 crankbaits a day.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. You'd be like a golf ball guy, golf ball pond, like
right.
Like there.
You go diving
for lures, right?
But same thing. Yep.
That is awesome. I tell you what, we're coming up on our first break of the night, and when we come back, we're going to talk about you and Yamaha.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to step outside. We'll be right back after this, folks.
PSE Archery has reinvented the way you buy bows.
From now on, you can make the most educated decision possible
by basing your bow choice specifically on your shooting needs and goals.
All you need to do is ask yourself, what kind of shooter am I? What do I want to achieve?
PSE will help find the right category for you.
So, what kind of shooter are you?
Find out at psearchery.com.
Welcome back. Second segment of the show, talking about fishing sunken roads.
We're fishing sunken roads, but we're also talking about navigating
right
those roads.
Man.
And I tell you what, besides having your electronics, you're riding in a Ranger boat and you're having it powered by Yamaha. What motor are you running on that thing?
This year I have the F300 XCA. I run a 620 Ranger, and they switched the design a little bit this year, so they were able to power it through 300. So this is my first year with that engine. The previous years, it was only powered to a 250. So then I was running the VF 250 XA, which is their show engine that I had been running previously.
And how you like it? Talk to us about it, because that one of the things we talk about Yamaha is dependability. We just talked about how big that lake is, 70, 80 miles. Dependability, gas mileage, and everything that you need to depend on that motor.
Right. It's that the F300, the XCA, the offshore brand or line of engines. Their reliability, dependability, and their fuel mileage. It's phenomenal. We had a tournament out on Lake Sakakawea, which is western North Dakota. Huge body of water about a month and a half ago, and I ran wide open for 130 miles, and I still had gas when I got back, and a lot of the other guys had to back off to save some fuel. So the fuel mileage in that engine, I don't believe there's one out there that can compete with it.
And that's one of the things we've talked about in months previous, talking to your fellow Yamaha anglers that have been on, and that's one of the best things is the gas mileage, because when you're making that long run, I don't think you're going to be wanting to look for a gas station.
Well, that's one of the things that they've mentioned, and things that I really didn't think about.
I know,
because here on the smaller lakes we don't make big runs like that, and you don't really worry about it. But where you guys are, you're making runs. That's key for you guys, right?
It is. It's key. And you sometimes there's stops to get gas along the way. But if you don't have to do that, because if you're stopping at gas and there's only one stop along the way, there's 50 guys standing there. You know what I mean? So it's a long wait. So just to not be able to do that and bypass that, it's a significant amount of time that we save. And not even in time, just the amount of money spent on gas, right?
Right.
You're just, you're doing all this pre-fishing, and you're putting, 100, 200 hours, whatever it may be, more on your boats a year. The gas savings is crazy compared to some of the other guys.
Is there anything special that you have to do for the Yamaha motor come downtime, down season, whenever?
No, nothing special. Your 20-hour maintenance, it's just going to be change your oil, your lower unit fluid, and then your 100-hour maintenance. You're going to have more maintenance you want to do on that, and just your oil again, your fluids, and a few other things. But it's pretty simple and nothing crazy at all. It doesn't take much time.
When you guys are out there on the tournament circuit running those motors, do you have a special prop that you guys run just for the tournament circuit versus something that we might use here on the Great Lakes or on just a bigger body of water here locally?
No, me personally, I don't. I mean, I can't speak for other guys. I just go, for example, the prop I run on the engine that I have is the 21 pitch Pro Series prop. I found that works the best just for my setup. I know some guys will, they'll send them out, Yamaha guys and other guys, sponsored guys and non-sponsored guys. They'll get them shaven and they'll get them recupped and they'll do all this stuff. But I don't. You might gain a mile or two an hour, but then the prop's going to lose some function. And I personally have found it. The props that, in this case, that Yamaha makes are they make them designed for their engines, and they work just as great as any other. Because there's some of these guys are spending $600-700 just to customize their prop, and it's not doing that much. Yamaha, the props that they make are for the engines, and they're great and reliable props, and they're going to get the job done.
Oh, there you go.
That goes to show you what it takes in the engineering side of a motor is tuning the prop to the motor, getting the best performance out of it for you guys that really need to depend on it, and then that just trickles down to the consumer. Tammy, who uses on their boat a Yamaha as well, and it's a tank, and she, they're heading out to the river. He's heading out to these tournaments where he's doing these long distance drives, possibly 60, 80 miles.
Well, I was heading up north this weekend, and running up I-75, I was like, I'm just going to start looking at the boat motors and just seeing what everybody's got. And lo and behold, the majority of them now, I'm noticing, back in the day, you had 3 or 4 different brands or 5 that people were buying, but now I'm seeing a ton of Yamahas on back of boats. They really seem to be, impacting the market heavily right now.
For sure, and we're seeing them all over here in North Dakota and Minnesota too. I talk to most of them at the gas station, or hey, why do you like it? What do you do? And they all say the same thing: it's reliable and it's dependable. They've had this engine for their last one they had 15, 20 years old, and it's worked great. So then they buy a new engine, they're getting a Yamaha. That it seems to be the same answer every time. Reliability and dependability is why they keep on purchasing the Yamaha engines.
Well, Danny mentioned about the down season, do anything different. What do you do to your motor and to your boat when you're done with it and you put it away for the end of the season? Is there anything that what's kind of your routine? I mean, anything special that people really need to pay attention to that they might not think about?
So every engine's going to be different. I personally I'll change the oil and I'll change the lower unit fluid. And then if you every engine's going to have their own little nuances what they want. If you look in the manual, it's going to tell you exactly what that specific engine needs for, say, 100-hour maintenance or for a winterization process. You can do it yourself, and if you're not very handy, just take it to your Yamaha, your closest Yamaha dealership, and they'll go along and they'll do everything you need. But maintenance is key, right? You stay on top of it, you maintain it, it's going to really get you a long way.
Absolutely. There's one thing you can, and that's with anything really, is making sure, like you do it yourself, but if you don't know, go ask, because I'm sure they're more than happy to help you change whatever needs to be changed or get it done for you, because I don't think you want the bill in case you blow it up.
No, because that's usually what I do. I was like, oh, I can do this, and all of a sudden I do something wrong without reading the manual, and I'm toast at that point. Then I'm paying a bill.
Another thing I will say is if anyone out there does have a Yamaha and they're wondering what, they're looking for a little better performance on their prop, or they're not sure which prop to which best. If you go to Yamaha's website, they have a prop selector whole page on there, and it's phenomenal. You can type in your boat, what type, twin engine, single engine, triple engine, and it'll tell you a few props what you can try.
Yep, you go right to YamahaOutboards.com. You look at the top of the page. You go over to propellers. It gives you an option of propellers or prop selector.
Nice. That helps you out, puts you in the right spot.
There you go.
It's a good option to have.
Absolutely. And Ron Moses says, always have 3 props on hand. That kind of worries me.
I carry 3.
You carry 3? Seriously?
Especially fishing these lakes over here. You hit a rock, you hit a tree. You lose a blade. Yeah.
How many times did it happen to you?
Oh, I've quite a bit.
Have you had it? Okay, now we're gonna go after this one, because I have this vision. You're cruising along, all of a sudden, boom, you hear it go. You pull up the motor, you look, and you're missing a blade. It's like, okay, so do you change it right there?
It depends on the situation. In order to be changed right there, it'd have to be pretty substantial. You can usually get through the day, especially if it's a nick or a chunk. If you're missing an entire blade, yeah, you're probably that engine's good. It's going to be rattling the whole time, so you probably have to change it out. But no, you usually can get by unless it's something crazy happens, like you rip the lower unit off or whatever. Yeah.
Well, I could see multiple props for these guys because they're putting a lot of miles on the water, but Ron, we got to talk after the show why you got 3 props in your boat, because I know these Michigan lakes aren't that big. So
right. Well, Tammy Doug calls Yamaha Motors bulletproof.
Okay.
Let's not find that out.
That many times, yep.
Right. But I just had a vision of him throwing a prop, him grabbing a wrench, jumping overboard, swimming up behind it, changing it on the fly, jumping back fishing.
Yeah, right.
I don't know, just superhero thing.
Or, hitting a shear pin in the back on the prop. I don't know. I assume they still have those. I remember back when I was a kid that happened when we were out on the Great Lakes. Hit something, a shear pin goes. And you better have those little keyways, those little pieces of metal put back in to make sure you've got it to where it can fasten it down and run. So.
Right. Yeah. So all we have now simple cotter pin, right?
Okay.
Yep. There you go.
Throw your nut on, throw your cotter pin in, and honestly, the thrust of the engine would keep that prop on if you didn't have a cotter pin.
Okay. Gotcha.
But obviously, for many reasons, you want it. But if it was an emergency situation, you didn't have one, you'd probably be okay.
Okay. All right.
I just.
I can see the wheels spinning.
Yeah, they're spinning. And that's one of the things. It's just like you said, Yamaha Motors, dependability, reliability, all rolled up into one. And we've talked about the engineering that goes into these. It's not a mismatch of throw a engine together and throw it out to the public. It's really been fine tuned.
That's the one thing I've learned this year.
Yeah, is the one thing we've taken from the interviews we've had with all the guys so far this year. is Yamaha has really gotten into their engineering and actually asking the anglers,
right?
Show us what you need, show us what you do, and we'll try to make it better.
Right on. I guess the one thing that I learned tonight from you, Spencer, is the fact you're talking about the gas mileage. We talked about. I never thought about making those long runs and worrying about fuel mileage. But the other thing I didn't think about was, if you go into a place to get fuel and there's only one place on that lake, everybody's there. It's like the big gas line waiting. I got to imagine that just burns a ton of time.
It does, and you can choose, right? Do you go before you start fishing, or do you fish and you get it on the way back, right?
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, if you're like, hey, we'll get it on the way back, well, that's a risk too, because if it's a long line, you don't know how much time you need to get in.
Right.
So now you're risking even making it back. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Wow.
That's awesome.
I'll tell you, let's take a break, Danny. We come back. We got a couple questions I'd like to have them answer that we've got from some of the listeners and viewers here, and then we'll jump into something that's really passionate that he's involved with.
Exactly. And, just for everybody out there, if you go on over and you've got more questions about Yamaha themselves, go on over to YamahaOutboards.com, and then you can go to their website there and find out where you can go look at one.
All right. We're going to take a step outside. We'll be right back after this.
PSE Archery has always dominated the speed category. Now, the most revolutionary cam system ever to hit the market has perfected the shooting experience. Introducing PSE's Evolve Cam System, featuring extremely high let-off capabilities and the smoothest draw cycle in history. No other cam system has ever delivered this level of total comfort and total control. Experience PSE. Experience performance.
Welcome back. Third segment of the show. We're talking here in the commercial break a little bit. We got some questions from some of the listeners and viewers out there, and I saw this one from one of our reliable people that's always out there listening every week, Ron Moses, and he's talking back about with the sunken road that you guys are fishing where the flooding and everything was. He said, so do you use a Garmin road map or a Hummingbird to chart the waters there? Like a TomTom or something that you'd use in your car, or do you actually use a Hummingbird? And does the road show up on a Hummingbird?
So, great question. And the answer I have is, so it's pretty crazy. There is a few companies out there. So if you look back to the old days on that lake, when it was a very small lake, there's a chip company out there that actually had taken the 1990 Google Earth image, and they overlaid it right on the chip. So when you're driving around I run Lowrance, okay, and it's actually the only graph that it works in. It won't work. This chip won't work in any other if it's not Lowrance. But we have the 1990 overlay old lake right on our mapping system, so we know exactly where the old roads are, the rock piles, the old shorelines. You can follow it to a T.
So you can actually see the roads with the water map as well.
They thought about it.
They thought about it. That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
That is awesome. So, Ron, there you go. He's got both.
Somebody was thinking as a chip company is
right.
what was happening.
Right.
All right. So give us Charles Barham, who's out in Iowa. He's not familiar with walleye tournaments. He kind of wants to could you go over the rules real quick of can you use bait, can you use several poles, can you troll, et cetera, et cetera?
Yep. So let's go with the poles question. Whatever the state law allows, that's where we're able. If you can use two Minnesota, you're only allowed one rod per angler, so you can use one there. So Minnesota, I believe, is the only state that we fish that we're only allowed one. So other than that, it's usually two. And then sometimes three. I think Wisconsin is actually three. Is Ohio three? Can you use three out there?
We're in Michigan. We use three here. I'm not sure about Ohio.
Yeah.
I'm not sure in Ohio either.
So typically it'll follow the state law unless they specify in the rules before the tournament that, hey, we're only going to use two.
Okay.
Now, other than that, we usually have 5 walleye, and you weigh your best 5. We cannot call at all. So once you put one in, it's typically yours to keep, and you can have 7. So you usually have 2 fish to play with. So if the fish come in the wrong order, you're kind of out of luck. But Minnesota, they allow us to call after a certain time of year. So it all just depends on the time of year that the tournament is being held. The rules are going to vary a little bit here and there. Given that, I do fish the AIM, Anglers Insight Marketing Tournament. That's Yamaha's a good sponsor of that circuit, and that's a little different. That's all catch, record, release. You catch fish, you record it, you take a picture of it, you write down the length, and then you let it go. And every length of fish to the quarter inch has a specified weight associated with that. For example, if you caught a 23-inch walleye, you take a picture, put it on the ruler, put it back, write down 23 inches, and then say 23 inches is 3.98 pounds, and you just write 3.98. So we fished a couple of those tournaments as well. So there's depends on the circuit, time of year, and location. Really, all those questions can have varied answers.
Okay. Well, you said like the one state you're talking about it was a 5 fish limit on for your weigh-in. What would be a good average bag limit in that state? I mean, that you would say.
It's going to depend on.
What's that?
Depend on the lake.
Depends on the lake. Okay.
Okay.
Let's just take Devil's Lake. Yeah, the lake and time of year. If you take Devil's Lake, for example, you're always shooting for 20 pounds, right? So you want a 4-pound average. To win a tournament there, recently it's been upwards of 28 to 33 pounds. So your 5 to 6 pound average just to win. So that's what it would take to win there. Like Lake Sakakawea, it very similar as well. That's kind of the same. And then the Missouri River system. If you're in North Dakota, it's going to we just had a tournament there 2 weeks ago, and it took 38 pounds to win for 5 fish, which is crazy. It has never been that high. So the fishing is getting better. The tournaments we fish in South Dakota, they have different rules, so you can only have 2 fish over 20 inches.
Okay.
And then your other 3 fish that you weigh in have to be under 20 inches. So you're looking for those 19 and a quarter, 19 3/4 inch fish.
As close as you can get to it without going over.
Yeah, and they grow, right? You put a fish in the live well, you catch one, you measure it. That fish is going to be under some stress, right? So it's going to shrink a little bit. You put it in a live well for 3-4 hours, and it relaxes. It's going to grow like 1/4 inch. That's not uncommon. So you better be certain.
That's wild. Okay, that's like man. You go to Vegas too and play the
odds here,
the odds out there or what?
Wow.
Oh, speaking of that, do you ice fish?
I do. I don't take it nearly as serious as I do the summer stuff. I do it more just having fun, having a good time with some friends and family. But yeah, I'll go. My dad ice fishes every weekend, so I'll go with him every now and then as well. But yeah, no, we definitely do it.
Well, speaking of having fun and doing a little recreational fishing with friends, family, and kids and all that, you're very passionate about working with the youth and getting youth involved. We want to make sure that we give you plenty of time to talk about that and how you're involved with a special organization. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yep, definitely. So since 2009, 2010, I've been working with the National Professional Anglers Association. Their website's mpaa.net, and they have a Future Angler Foundation is their foundation on the side, and we work with them as well. And our goal is just to get, to grow the sport through education and outreach. We want to reach as many as kids as we thought initially that, hey, we want to get as many kids involved in the sport of fishing as we possibly can. And what we've learned over the last 10 years doing these is we do these clinics. Mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, they come, they bring the kids, and all the kids are learning. But what we didn't realize was actually happening is the parents were learning just as much as the kids were. Not all these parents grew up fishing. Not all these grandparents grew up fishing. They want to learn too, so they can bring their grandson or granddaughter or son or daughter fishing. So our goal is just to get as many kids involved in the outdoors as we possibly can. Personally, my wife and I, we do some traveling around the Midwest, and we hold 10 to 15 youth and family fishing clinics a year. And through the Future Angler Foundation, they send us rods and reels that are actually functioning, and there's line, and we give typically every kid a rod and reel and a t-shirt and a water bottle, and some tackle. And then after the clinic, and they can go out and use their rods and reels and catch some fish. So it's been a really good 10 years we probably have had over 1,000 kids for sure that we've given rods and reels to, if not more. I don't know the exact number, but it's been quite a bit. And the support from Yamaha for these youth clinics and family clinics have been I can't thank them enough. There's no way my wife and I could do this without their support.
Yeah, we're flipping through the pictures here that you sent us, and you got these kids right up in the boat, showing them all the gear and everything, and then the pictures you got with them. There's this big group here. Let me put it up here right now. Every one of those kids has got the T-shirt you're talking about, and fishing rods and everything. It's just it's cool to see that many kids, participating in learning about a sport. We talk about hunting. We need hunter recruitment, but fishing is no different. We need to get these kids involved in the outdoors, and what you're doing is awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and it's anybody can do it. It's not just me; anybody can do it. It just takes a little bit of time, not a ton. Just go to the MPA website, contact me if you want to host a clinic in your town. I can certainly help you. I can tell you how I do mine, and I can work with you to hopefully get you rods and reels and whatever to hand out to the kids in your community. But we always say if everybody, all these fishermen who are fishing all these tournaments, just do one, right? Even if 10 kids showed up, can you imagine how many kids that would go out to? It doesn't take a lot of time or effort to reach a significant amount of to kids and families. We just need the people to step up and say, hey, I'll do one. And the support is there.
And you're right. And that's one of the things, Mike and I, coming out of the ATA show for archery last year, actually a couple of years ago, but it's kind of considered, our motto is kind of, with our working out and trying to become better healthy, is get off the couch. And this kind of flows right into that, is whether it be hunting or in this case fishing, get off the couch, get your children and even as adults, get off the couch, get out fishing during the summer.
Yeah, well,
what better way than getting out there? If you're sitting on a shore, that's fine. If you can get a boat, that's fine. Get out there, get off the couch.
Yep. Teach these kids.
And there's a lot of places to catch just in town. All these little creeks and ponds, and golf course ponds have carp or bullhead or catfish or whatever. These kids don't care what they're catching. They just if they're catching something, right? It doesn't have to be a walleye or a bass. It's just something to keep them busy, and they have a great time doing it.
Sometimes the best fish is just about the size of a potato chip.
Right.
That's exactly it.
One question we do have: you've been doing this, you said, for 10 years.
Roughly, yep.
Have you had any of the children stay through adulthood, come back, say, "Hey, I was in your class X"? Have you had any of that?
A few times, yep. And I've actually had one that asked about hosting a clinic, right? So another cool little thing is there's an organization over here. It's called the Young Angler. I think it might even be like a national organization. I'm not sure, but we have kids fishing tournaments actually. And the one I participate in is in Devil's Lake. We have 40 boats, 2 kids under 18. And we've been doing it every year, and to see some of these kids go from fishing as a kid for 10, 11, 12 years old, they fished it for 9 years, and then now they're the adult in the boat, and then they take kids with us. We've seen a lot of that too. So it's a lifelong sport, right? It doesn't matter your age, they're going to be doing it forever. So we just need to get them involved, and that's how we're going to grow the sport.
Well, I got to imagine that all these youth programs, these are feeder programs for what we're seeing now in high schools and colleges where they have fishing teams. And that's got to make a big impact on that as well, I would think.
Oh, huge impact. I just got notified last week that there's a school in Fargo called Oak Grove, a high school that wants to start a fishing team for their high school, and they asked me if I was interested in coaching or helping or however I can assist them. And it would be the first one in town, and it's the first one I've heard of over on this side of things. And we chatted a little bit before the show, but North Dakota State University now has a fishing team, so it's growing, and I can't imagine in 10 years what the high school and college leagues are like. It's going to be incredible.
Well, you got to give hats off to your dad. Before the show, we were talking a little bit. You started as a youngster, learning how to fish, and who would have thought the impact he made on you, and now the impact you're making on all these other kids that are now coming up through the sport. Just people out there right now that are listening and watching. One person can make such a huge impact. You don't know where it's going to lead, And if you do like one of these things, what you're talking about, one of these seminars with a little bit of help, you don't know what it's going to lead to and who you might impact and change their lives. That's the awesome part about this.
Yeah, it's great, and sadly enough, we have to limit our clinics. We can only have 30, 40, 50 kids depending on the location. The reason isn't because we don't have enough time; it's because we don't have enough people to help. if we want them to be, we want these kids to learn. So we want, we break out in groups, and we want 8 in a group. And we just don't have enough people to help. So if you can even just volunteer, there's a lot of clinics out there your time. So that's kind of what we look for too, is volunteers. Just, it's only an hour. That's all we ask for, is 1 hour. So any bit of time you can give would be awesome.
And typically, are those held on weekends?
Saturdays. Yep. We usually do them on Saturdays.
All right. So an hour on a Saturday to go volunteer, help them out, help the kids out for the future. And I tell you what, whether you're a dad or a mom, just getting them to something like this, or getting them out there yourselves. And like you said, Spencer, the parents are out there learning themselves.
Absolutely.
And it just, getting outdoors is the best for the mental part of your life that you could ever do.
Absolutely.
I think.
Once again, the website that he had mentioned earlier, go to, which is, again, Spencer, for the seminars?
MPAA.net. That's going to be the National Professional Anglers Association. And then the foundation they work with is Future Angler Foundation, and that's futureangler.org. And, if you can't, all these rods and reels and T-shirts and stuff, it does cost a ton of money. So the Future Angler Foundation does take donations if you're interested in that too. I do believe they are a 501c3, so everything is tax deductible.
You know what? And speaking of that, you're taking time out to join us, and I know you got Facebook and everything. Where can people find you and like you and follow you to know more about what you're doing and where you're going to be?
Yep, I'm on Instagram most of the time. Deutz _fishing is my handle on there. DEUTZ and then _fishing. So that's where you can find me on Instagram. The same on Facebook as well. But my Instagram page is mainly where I promote all this stuff.
All right. I think we've talked about how he got into it in the first segment. We've talked about his motor and Yamaha dependability. We've talked about the fishing tournament and what he's really into with the Future Anglers Foundation.
I know where you want to go next.
I think the last segment is going to be for us.
Okay.
Because I'm getting reminders not to forget the special questions.
There you go. All right. I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. If you can't find an organization online, like he just mentioned, go to your local fishing shop, your local bait shop. Start asking questions. Just
absolutely
make an impact. So we're going to step outside, take a quick break. We come back. We're going to ask a couple questions that we always like to ask our guests, and we'll do that right after this.
Acceleration is part of PSE's DNA. PSE pioneered the speed movement. Now they've developed the vapor category to help you find the most powerful bows on the market to fit you.
High speed equates to intense power and building the momentum you need to be successful. Are you a vapor shooter? Find out at psearchery.com.
Welcome back. Last segment of the show, the part of the show that Danny just waits for every week.
You know what? I tell you what. We talk with our guests, and we listen to them, and we talk and throw questions at them. But it's our turn.
All
now
right.
we got to find out really about Spencer.
All right.
To find out what really makes Spencer the fisherman that he is in this case. All right. So we typically ask our interviewees some questions. Okay. First question is, obviously, you've been to Lake Erie and you've been traveling 14 plus hours, and you're driving along, you're pulling your boat and listen to it. Exactly. What are you listening to on the radio? Are you listening to music? Are you listening to podcasts? Are you listening to the weather? Are you listening to the windows rolled down, the air going through your ears? What do you listen to?
Music and podcasts. I do them both. Yep. Music is country out here in North Dakota. Everyone listens to country music, so that's what we're listening to out here. And then any good podcast that I could find. I find medical podcasts very interesting, so I'll try to find those and listen to them.
So, old country or new country?
New country.
New country. Okay. All right.
One of those kind of guys.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with new country. I'm more old country, but
I know you're more old country. As long as it isn't rap, we're good. All right. So you're listening to your favorite podcast, listening to some medical feature on open heart surgery or something like that, and lo and behold, you got to have a snack. What is that snack that you're having in the truck on your journey?
Probably beef jerky.
All right. Any particular brand?
Whatever the gas station.
There you go, the gas station kind of guy. Teriyaki, right?
Nice.
Yeah, right.
That's good stuff.
There you go. And actually, Ron Moses says the size fish is perfect for a Ritz cracker.
Oh, there you go. The potato chip size.
There you go.
Well, speaking of food, let's say Danny and I were invited over to your house for an evening for maybe some fishing or maybe shooting some archery in the backyard, whatever it may be. And you say, guys, I'm going to cook you dinner. I'm going to cook you some wild game food, whether it be the kind that's on land or the kind that's in the water. What would you cook for us and why?
I'm usually, if it's a good group of people, I'm usually just frying walleye. Actually, it's and why? Because I have a lot and it's easy.
Okay, how do you prepare it?
Any special way?
Everybody loves it.
Right.
Yeah, so we do it a little different. I'll probably shout out to Zane Axman. He taught me this, but we just bread it in your standard short lunch or whatever you want for that, and then you double bread it again with Ritz crackers. So you chop up Ritz crackers and then bread that over the top of your shore lunch, and then you're just frying it in your oil, and it really does a trick.
Sounds good.
Sounds yummy. you know what? And okay, so we've just finished that wonderful walleye dinner. We're gonna kick back around the fire, and you're gonna tell us your favorite story. What story would you tell us that comes to your mind, whether it be a hunting story, a fishing story, something that made an impact on your life?
Oh boy, now you're really putting me on the spot, huh? Probably honestly just fishing and well, okay, so every year we would go hunting. We do a lot of waterfowl hunting, and it would be, we have this MEA break where in Minnesota, where I went to high school in Moorhead, so that's on the Minnesota side, like October 15th through 30th or 25th. Every year you get a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off. Growing up for every grade. So we would, my brother and my dad and I would always go to my grandfather's house, and we would go hunt snow geese. And it was just religious. So my grandpa would be there, our whole family's there, and then it kind of trickles down to probably what I'm doing now, right? Just giving back to the next generation of kids in fishing.
That's awesome. That was going to be a question I was going to ask you, is about hunting, if you did any hunting. But, there's something special about, you look back at those memories with family and friends, your dad, your grandpa, whatever, and, maybe you got a favorite shotgun or a favorite place to hunt or what have you. Just those memories, to me, is what drives us into the future, I think. It's sharing what we love and what we're passionate about and sharing it with the next generation. So that's cool.
It does go a long way, longer than, people think. So
absolutely.
And speaking of that, you've got a really young one, and you're going to be a new dad here in about a month or so. So you've got just, you'll be passing it on again and again, and it's, you look forward to that, and it's one of those things that it's a cool factor that you can do, whether it be hunting, fishing, getting out there.
Yeah. So have you bought some extra rod and reels for the new one coming along yet?
Oh, she loves it.
Yeah.
We have a few videos of her catching walleye and slip bobbers, and have you guys heard of backyard bass? They're little plastic fish you can play with.
I don't. I've got grandkids, but I haven't seen those yet. No.
I would look. So they're plastic fish. They lay flat in the grass, and you can cast a rod out there. That's what we use in our kids' clinics.
Okay.
You can cast a rod out there, and they reel them in, and you have a little plastic fish or just a weight or anything, and they reel it in, and they can hook onto the fish and catch it in the yard. So then they reel it in, and they got this fish. It's pretty cool.
That is awesome.
My daughter caught one. We were just playing in the living room, and she rolled it in. She was like, I think 19 months old. And we put it on Facebook, and another company shared it, and it's at like almost 3 million views now. So
wow.
And it went viral.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
And it's just a simple, and everyone's like, where can I get those things? Where can I get those things? So they're just awesome for the kids.
And what's the name of them again?
They're called backyard bass.
Backyard bass. Danny's looking it up right now. He's Googling it as we're talking here. So that's incredible.
I think you find them on Amazon is okay. Where they get it.
Yeah, he's looking it up right. Oh, okay. You know what? Actually, I think that's actually what my grandson's got. I didn't realize that was. I thought we were talking something bigger.
Nope, they're just little plastic fish that lay flat on the grass or in the house, and you can catch them. Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Yeah, his has got a little magnet, I think he uses to catch them with.
That's what you catch them with. You catch them with a little magnet on the end of the pole.
That is cool. That is so cool.
And it goes viral. Now she's got 3 million hits.
Wow.
You're right. And it's crazy. They were like, I don't know, $16 for 3 of them, and then like 2 days later after that video went, they were like 90.
You're kidding me.
No.
Do you have royalties on this? Did they send you some money?
Send profits too.
I have nothing. But I just shot, like, Amazon sold out. It was crazy.
That's insane.
That is wild. That is awesome. Speaking of, something like that, that is something. You're going to have to save that video. And when she's older, go, hey, do you know what you did when you were 19 months old?
You made somebody a whole lot of money.
No kidding. I got one. It was pretty crazy.
And it wasn't me, and I can't send you to college.
Right. Wow. Well, I tell you what, we're kind of bumping up here towards the end of the show. If we got any more questions here, if anybody's got anything.
One more thing. Are you superstitious about anything in your boat?
Like a banana? Banana in the boat? Okay.
Okay,
we talked with some of those bass fishermen. They're talking about how you're not supposed to have bananas in the boat.
It's a thing. I mean, I never have bananas in the boat because we just don't eat bananas in the boat.
Okay.
But no.
You wouldn't throw a banana in somebody else's boat, would you?
No.
Okay, that just brings up a question. Anything that you can tell here on the show, like a practical joke you play on another fisherman during a tournament, that you'll admit to?
No. I have seen some, fun things after, on the end where guys will unhook other guys' trailers after the weigh-in, and they'll just drive off and they don't have their boat hooked up, and, just stupid things like that. But nothing, no, I got nothing.
Nothing malicious, just a little good, clean fun.
No.
That's funny. That is good stuff. So, all right, I'll tell you what. Wait a minute, Charles got something here.
It's the banana question.
Okay.
Yep, he'll get it in 30 seconds.
Okay, all right, yeah. Charles, we've already asked that question. It just came up right after we asked it. So, I tell you what, though, for our podcast listeners, as we always like to say at the end of the show, go over to our Facebook page, our Instagram, over to Twitter and YouTube and all those. Give us a like, give us a follow, give us a share. Do the same for Spencer and his pages as well, and Yamaha's. And give us a share on the show. If you like what you're hearing, make sure that you share the podcast with everybody so we can just help spread the good word. So that'll do it for us this week. Next week, we've got Brian Anderson on from G5 talking about broadheads from right here in Michigan. So make sure you tune in again next week at 7 o'clock. Well, actually, that's for those of you on the live stream, but for the podcast, make sure you tune in again next week. That'll do it for us this week, folks. Y'all take care, and we'll see you again next week. This episode was brought to you by PSE Archery,
Buck Bait,
Better the Hunt,
Rebel 6 Rubs and Seasonings,
Easy Cut,
Lim Walker Game Calls,
Sunrise Archery,
Total Peep,
Hunter's Blend Coffee,
Packer Max,
Fourth Arrow Camera Arms,
Scent Blocker,
Scent Lock,
Copper John,
and Stanislawski Release Aids.
Thanks for listening, and join us again here next week. Until then, remember, as we always like to say, if you're out on the water or in the woods, shoot straight and be safe. Until next week on the Up North Journal.